Welcome to Like Nobody's Business, the podcast that goes beyond the bottom line and reaches deep into the heart of what really matters for women entrepreneurs, leaders, and founders today. I'm Emily, your host and founder of WMNûp, a global movement community, an infinite upward spiral of visionary, resourced women entrepreneurs. I'm also a business strategist and leadership coach and a 6- and 7-figure business mentor for women entrepreneurs with over a decade of experience serving women across industries to build regenerative, intentional, and innovative business ecosystems that are transforming the world for good, without sacrificing profitability, our integrity with our values, or what matters most along the way. Here, we know that business isn't just about commerce or consumerism. It's about culture and policy. It's about challenging the systems that keep us all from rising, amplifying solutions that move us forward, and reclaiming what it is truly our business to care about as women today, at a time where many systems and structures are in dire need of recalibration for more equitable futures for all. Each week, I'll sit down with values-driven women leaders, activists, authors, researchers, and innovators who are on the front lines of shaping the conversations that matter most, issues of equity, upward mobility, and dismantling systems of oppression within ourselves, our work, and the world. Because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And these challenges, they're not just someone else's problem. They're our business. And together, we're here to rise, resist, and reimagine the future. This is our space to facilitate and engage in the conversations women need to be having. It's time to woman up, get uncomfortable, be brave, and take bold action that blazes new trails, both in your business and beyond. So pull up a chair, get ready to be activated, and let's dive in together. We've got this. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the show. I'm so happy to have you here with us today and to introduce you to Amanda Kuda. She is an alcohol-free lifestyle expert, a holistic life coach, speaker, and author, living, working, and playing in Austin, Texas. She helps ambitious, soul-centered women stop drinking and start manifesting the life they deserve and desire. She also has a new book called Unbottled Potential: Break Up with Alcohol and Break Through to Your Best Life, which is now out and available wherever books are sold. She's been featured on CNN, Business Insider, and The Skim, and she has so many fun things to share with us today. So I'm excited to have you on the show, Amanda, and welcome you to Nobody's Business and dig in.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. I'm excited to be here and chat today.
Me too. So tell me a little bit about your story with alcohol and sober living and this sort of, it's become quite a movement, right? Like sober curious, whole concept. So tell me about your experience with this whole equation.
For sure. I think that the interesting thing about my relationship with alcohol is there's nothing incredibly extraordinary about it. I had a very normalized relationship with alcohol. I started drinking in my late teens to fit in with all of the other kids in the small town that I grew up in. And I found that alcohol really helped me come out of my shell. It helped me be a little more gregarious and magnanimous and fun. And so I carried that persona with me throughout college and into my young adult professional life, and really had this predisposition that alcohol was so normal and necessary. We're about the same age, I think. And I remember I was a little late to the show, but I remember in my junior and senior year of high school, binging Sex and the City and really starting to idolize this Carrie Bradshaw archetype of this fabulous, fun woman who was dressed to the nines, had these amazing friendships, had a high, powerful career, was so independent, had all of these handsome men in her life. And what was her accessory but a martini? And so I just started to make this connection. That is what made you fun, sexy, powerful, exciting. And I know now that's not true, but it made so much sense to me as a young woman. And so I just started to develop this socialite party girl persona. And granted, please know that I lived in the Midwest, so my life was nothing like Carrie Bradshaw. But I started to develop my version of that. And I clung so tightly to it that it really started to become something that I believed that was a part of me. This was just a part of my personality, that I would go out and drink and party on the weekends. And I never had a quote unquote problem with alcohol. It was never ruining my life. I was never hiding my drinking or drinking during the week or showing up to work or losing, not pulling up my responsibilities. But I had a pretty stressful, high power career. And on the weekend, I just felt it was my duty and something that I'd earned to really just tie one on and really go from work hard to play hard. And so I lived that life throughout my 20s. And then around the time I turned 28, and we could dive into this a little more deeply, but I really started down this spiritual and personal development path. And what I realized as part of that path was that I really yearned for this life where there was more peace and there was more centeredness and where I was more in touch with my intuition. And it just so happened that no matter how much I followed these self-help books to the T, no matter how many times I meditated, prayed, went to yoga, wrote in my journal, it didn't seem like anything was taking hold. And so at some point I had to reckon with either I'm doing it wrong, I'm damned, and the universe has not chosen me to be happy, or maybe there's something counterproductive that I'm doing that's keeping me stuck. And as I did the math, the only thing that I could come up with was this very social relationship with alcohol that I had. And even though I didn't want that to be the answer because I put so much of my social investment in this persona, I decided to give it a try and see what life might be like without alcohol. And the long short of the story is my life completely blossomed when I stopped that one behavior. And so that's what I teach and share today is about the potential that's available to you when you step away from this really socially acceptable substance.
It is so interesting with alcohol specifically that it is so socially accepted and it's almost just normalized, but it is like we know that it's not great for our health.
Mm-hmm.
We know that it's not great for our brain function. We know that it can take us out for days if we overdo it, right? We know so many things, and we know it's also like expensive. I don't know if anybody's ordered a cocktail lately. Like $5 for a cocktail. I'm like, there are many ways I'd rather spend $25. And right now, there's so many cool businesses and brands that have emerged in recent years that allow you to still be social. We were just in Miami for a bachelorette girls trip for one of my friends from college, and there were a couple people on the trip. One was pregnant, one is sober, one, there were just people who were not drinking. We weren't drinking heavily when we were, but it wasn't a crazy party. And we're a little older now, but still. And there are so many options, like on every menu, that you can still be social and choose something that's really honoring if this is your choice, right? Like a sober lifestyle
Yeah, I think
without
that's
having
so
to give
cool
up
too.
social or have something delicious and all.
Yeah, it's so neat to see this movement has evolved. When I first started, the reason I do the work that I do today is because there weren't options for anyone who just wanted to quit drinking for the health of it. It was either you have a problem and you go to AA or do some sort of
Right.
modern recovery approach, and you have O'Doul's non-alcoholic beer to drink, which I'm not going to get sponsored by O'Doul's for this, but it doesn't taste that good. There weren't these beautiful options to even make you feel like you had something elevated and fun to drink. So you feel left out, not only because no one's talking about this, you're a complete outcast and there's nothing for you to drink. And now, really, since COVID, the non-alcoholic movement has really blossomed to where it's something people are talking about. It's a socially acceptable thing, even though it's still a small kind of niche of people choosing this lifestyle. And like you said, yeah, there's so many options. So you have people going to bachelorette parties and saying comfortably, I'm not drinking. Here, look what I brought instead. And I think that is so cool as a way to make this a little more accessible as a lifestyle.
Especially because sometimes, like, I've never had a problem with alcohol either. So I'm similar to you. I also, many members of my family line have struggled, like, are actual alcoholics and have an addiction problem. I've never had that propensity. However, sometimes you just want to have something fancy, special. And usually, like the default is alcohol, but it doesn't have to be. And I love that there are more options, expanded options now that don't make you feel like no one
Left
would even
out.
know. But tell me, I'm so curious. So for you personally, what have you noticed that's changed? Or I guess that's not the question I want to ask. I want to ask what for you personally has been, or what do you see with your clients as well, that's been the primary difference before and after, even if you're just like a social drinker sometimes, like what's shifted in your life, in their lives as a result of going like actual sober curious, alcohol free, however we want to title it?
Yeah. Emily, I think the interesting thing is that right now in the movement, there's all of these really kind of surface level improvements that you can expect to see that are what seduce people into it, which is better sleep, clearer skin. You might lose some weight, you'll save some money. And those things are all amazing and they do happen and they come with time, but none of this changes overnight. I think that the change that really impacts me and my clients, which is why I started doing this work, is I was feeling stuck. I was feeling off track. I wasn't feeling in alignment with the me that I was supposed to be, nor did I even know who that was because I'd invested so much time into creating this persona. And so I think that with myself and the women who resonate with my work, that they're searching for something deeper. They know that there's something more for them in life and kind of they're going through like an existential crisis, a spiritual awakening, and they want to be that more authentic, centered version of themselves. And the fact of the matter is that's just not available to you when you are clouding your own intuition with alcohol. You're putting on these masks and playing this persona because you think that's what's most socially acceptable. And the reality is, I didn't even know I was doing it because I'd become so accustomed to it. And so having that space away from alcohol to just get the mental clarity and then to really start to make use of the personal and spiritual development tools that I had allowed me to realize like, wow, that wasn't me. That person who I was, that's not who I truly am. I was not acting in integrity with my authentic self. I was showing up as a cookie cutter version of everyone else. I wasn't in the right career. I wasn't feeling great. I wasn't making the time to really invest in myself. And once I had the mental and physical space to do that, my life just turned around rapid fire. And remember, my life was not bad. I was literally checking all the boxes. Everything looked great from the outside, but on the inside, I felt stuck. I felt off track. And once I had this little space to realize, oh, who am I and what do I want? I also started to develop the self-confidence to go after it, which before all I had the confidence to do was follow the path that was laid before me, which was get a job that has health insurance and benefits, work for the man. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not what I was intended to do. And I needed the clarity and the confidence to pursue a different path. And being alcohol free is what gave me that.
Wow. So awesome. And when it comes to your book, like when did you decide to write a book on this topic? And how long had you been alcohol free? And how long have you been how long had you been doing this work with
Yeah.
clients? And I'm just curious about the backstory of writing the book and the process and what you chose to put in there based on your experience in working with clients.
It's a really fascinating story because, like many people who want to write a book, I knew that I was going to do that since I was a little girl. Now, I did not know it would be a self-help book nor a self-help book on this topic, but I knew that was something that was on my bingo card of life. And when I was about a year and a half into my alcohol-free journey, I am a follower and mentee of Gabby Bernstein, and I had come across her work and just thought, wow, I'm supposed to do this. I want to do this. And so through her work, I got exposed to this writing coach who I decided like someday I'm going to work with this woman. So I remember sitting in my corporate job, going out to the parking lot and having a call with this book coach who I told her, I don't think that I'm in integrity to write a book right now. I don't quite have all of the ideas and content baked, but I'm going to work with you someday. And so I really at that point started developing this ideology around going alcohol free as a lifestyle and as a personal and spiritual development practice, and started really pulling together the tools that I had used since there were no resources available that were in the format that I wanted because everything was very recovery and addiction focused. So I started putting together this pack of resources. I started coaching women and I realized that there was this very consistent pattern that I had, as many people do who become coaches. And about a couple of months into COVID, actually, I realized, wow, I have an opportunity right now. This is the time. And Emily, one of my philosophies around sobriety is that when you stop drinking, you can start manifesting at really rapid rates. And I don't know what your listeners' thoughts are in manifestation, but I believe it's something that can happen, that you can attract the things that you want just by the way that you show up. And the ease in which all of the pieces came together for me to manifest the ability to write this book to the point of I called this book coach who I'd been sitting on for 2 years. And she said, I have something starting on Monday and it's at this crazy discounted price. And this wasn't like propaganda. This was like, oh, you just got in time for this pilot that I'm doing. So I got to work with this coach. I really wanted to have Gabby Bernstein's book agent. That was like my big 10 out of 10 vision board. And so I manifested this individual as my agent, which was a huge win. I manifested a great book deal. And then I put together this book based on my experience, understanding that alcohol really comes into your life and impacts you on every different level: social, mental, physical, emotional, professional, spiritual. It affects every area of your life in the way that you show up. If you're drinking at a moderate rate, most people drink in the gray area where they're not once every now and again drinkers, and they're also not addictive drinkers. And so how can I help these individuals, typically women, understand that, yes, of course, we know alcohol is bad for you. It's not good for your brain or your gut or any of your vitality, but it's also sneakily holding you back. And I really wanted to lay out this philosophy for individuals who didn't have to quit drinking, but maybe had started to wonder what their life could be like without without alcohol, and really paint the picture for them as to how beautiful it could be, using my own example and all of the clients I've worked with throughout the years. And I think that I've done that. I think I created a really beautiful book that really shares this message in an accessible, non-gloom and doom way. This isn't stories of being drunk and being in the trenches. It's a story of triumph and getting rid of something that was holding me back.
What do you think were some of the ways that you felt specifically held back by drinking alcohol?
I couldn't see it until it was already out of the way, because I didn't want to, nor could I actually conceptualize how it was holding me back, because I had gotten so used to the routine that I was in Monday through Friday, just really working hard. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, playing hard, that I didn't realize what a fog was over me, even basically through Thursday. So I had one good day of the week where I was actually pretty mentally clear, and then I was right back at it. But I couldn't see that, Emily, until I was several months away from it and finally started to lift from this fog of, whoa, I'm so much more energetic and creative and optimistic than I had been before. And even just getting in this mental state where I was no longer a victim that had a hard week and needed a drink or deserved to party or deserved to cut loose, and was this person who I could handle anything life threw at me. I went from victim, woe is me mentality, even though I wasn't depressed, it was just running in the background, to this, I can handle anything that life throws at me. And by the way, I'm going to choose a bigger life. I'm going to choose to have life throw bigger things at me. But before, I was just playing small. I was just doing what everyone else was doing. And that's not what I was meant to do. I was just keeping myself in this box that was safe and secure. And I'm not even meant to be in a box. I'm meant to soar. And I think that so many women are meant for that. And we keep ourselves small because we've been taught to be polite and not shake things up. I think that's changing quite a bit now. But I think that so many of us were trained to just accept what was good, right, and popular or monetizable as a path to follow. And I think that so many of us have bigger things to do than that.
Hey, love, it's Emily. I'm interrupting this podcast episode really fast just to tell you something that's a secret I forgot I was keeping and didn't mean to keep from you, which is that we actually have a free space for you to dive into at WMNûp called Calibrate. I was asked recently if we have a monthly option or a trial to test out the community before joining us for a full year. We don't, and we've actually tried that before, and ultimately we made the choice to not offer it because it was actually a disservice and antithetical to our teachings, values, offerings, and integrity of our space, which is truly founded on transformational, deep, long-term relationship building and community participation and engagement, both of which require commitment. Because actually, all transformational change, evolution, and growth requires the precedent of commitment. That being said, I know that you want to make sure that your investment will be aligned and that the work that we do at WMNûp is the right fit for you and your business at this point in time. And if you haven't already felt that through listening to this podcast, Calibrate is the perfect way to kind of test it out. And we solved this problem just a few months ago and admittedly have not been too vocal about what that pathway looks like for you. So I'm popping into the podcast today to let you know about it and let you know that we've built this entire free space for you inside Calibrate on our Circle platform, which is where all of our other programs and services are offered as well. So for those of you who are curious about becoming a member of the community or maybe applying to one of our mastermind experiences, Momentum if you're growing to 6 figures plus, or the Leadership Mastermind if you're scaling from multiple 6 figures to 7 figures and beyond, this free space will support you to plug into our frequency, our vibes, our ethos at WMNûp, to begin to calibrate up to your next WMNûp moment and initiate your infinite upward spiral of evolution and a new way of leading, growing, and scaling a regenerative business ecosystem with intention, innovation, and impact. Once you're inside, you'll receive free access to an amuse-bouche of resources to help you woman up, including our juicy training videos and masterclasses, including our 3-part Infinite Upward Spiral masterclass and our Visionary masterclass, our business ecosystem template that you can plug into any project management tool that you're already using, like Asana, Trello, Monday, Notion, whatever you like to use, and a training video from me walking you through exactly how to use it to get organized in the back end of your business. We also have some incredible replays of our 3-day Big Visionary Energy virtual conference for female founders that we hosted in October, which is a real incredible activation and virtual conference that is self-paced and you can go through at in your own time, in your own way. You'll also get access to our events calendar for non-members. We have a separate event calendar inside the community for our paid members. But think live trainings and virtual happy hours. Some events will be free, others will be paid. All of them happen virtually and live inside of our platform for so much ease. And you'll have the ability to submit your questions for me to answer on an upcoming solo episode of our podcast. So what do you do if you love the way that all sounds? Jump to the show notes and click that link to join Calibrate and get yourself plugged into our ecosystem. It's time to have your next WMNûp moment. I'm so excited to see you in there and to serve you and support you in this way. There is a plethora of resources in there. And once you're ready, once you already know that this is the space for you, we invite you to jump up into the community for just $197 a month or $19.70 for the full year and get access to our quarterly in-person events called WMNûp Weekends. They're 2 days each. This year, we're going to be taking them all across the US, which is really exciting. So come join us. We'd love to have you. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always send me a direct message on Instagram at Emily in Your Business or at WMNûp, spelled WMNûp. Back to the episode.
Yeah. As you're speaking about this, I'm thinking like it is such an industry. Sometimes with all of these things, we want to question our relationship with everything. But when it comes to things like shopping and alcohol, like all of these things, even wellness, sometimes it's a huge industry. We have to be really discerning about it.
Yeah.
And I think with alcohol, it's, I don't know what the stats are. Maybe you know this, but it's got to be just like such a huge industry in terms of how much money every single year and how many people are invested in that. And from a business perspective, it's a huge, like, their marketing strategy has been pretty good. Like
Really good.
they've made
Yeah.
it part of people's whole identity. They've made it part of culture. They've made it all of these things that creates a more stable industry. And so now I'm actually curious. I'll go look this up later, but I wonder what this movement has actually shifted. I know that there's new, like we were talking about earlier, so many things. A company just sent me, and I don't know if this would be considered sober, like all of these non-alcohol, but THC or like hemp drinks and all this other stuff. What are your thoughts on those emerging industries? And do you count, are we talking about, when it comes to being sober curious, are we talking about alcohol free, or are we talking about
Substance free. Yeah.
altering your state of being free? Because also, I find this really interesting just because there's so much, we could argue lots of things. Oh, this changes my state, but it's meditation changes my state. There are so many different things people might talk about or think about, or things that have been legalized or become more mainstream or more accessible through the wellness industry or these emerging industries now that aren't technically alcohol, but alter your state in some way.
Yeah, sure. I've been very clear that for me, I'm alcohol free. I don't recreationally use any other substance, but I'm not also opposed to things for like kind of more medicinal and therapeutic purposes. Or even if you do choose recreationally, I think that there's so many things that are much less volatile on your system than alcohol
Mm,
are, because you're exactly right. This is for so many years we've been sold that, oh, it's no big deal. You have a drink a week or whatever, and it helps your heart. And all of those things have been
right.
really wildly disproven. And so we're starting to realize like alcohol is good for you in zero cases. And some of these other substances like cannabis, THC, psilocybin, mushrooms, these are things that are more derived from the earth and that so far we're like have more positives than negatives. And so I can't really speak to the long-term effects of that. But for me, I think that it's so much better if you're going to choose to have something to calm you down or alter you, to choose one of the THC or psilocybin based products. And I I also think that for me, one of the most important things is that I want to become a master of my emotions. And that's something because I know that it's going to make me a better friend, partner, child, mother, whatever I choose to be. And when I was a drinker, I was not that. I was using alcohol to manage, even in a slight level, manage discomfort and to shut down and put away and put off to the side some really important emotions that we need to learn to feel. And so I wasn't great at managing stress because basically what I was doing is just delaying all of my stress management to Friday night when then I was drinking it away. And that didn't help at all. So
Mm,
I think the big thing for me is no matter what you choose, that if you really want to live your like most evolved, most open life, that you choose to become a master of your emotions. So as long as you don't completely replace alcohol with some other THC, cannabis, whatever substance, and you choose to figure out how to feel the discomfort that you're using alcohol to overcome, then you're in a good place. So that's my personal stance
mm.
on it all.
I love that. This is so important because I think, like we're saying, there's so much accessibility now. All of a sudden, it feels like for so many different other things where it's, oh, I could see people easily just replacing, like swapping one for the other, right?
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
vaping or whatever. And then it's like, we don't know the long-term effects. And it's always crazy. Like research does not catch up fast enough. It's not
Exactly.
possible. But wasn't there a study recently? I think I saw something that like alcohol, I don't know if it was causes cancer or there was some study that came out recently where it was like this information has been known, but it's been concealed by the alcohol industry as a whole. Do you know
Yeah. I mean,
what
it's a
I'm referencing?
class one carcinogen. And
Yeah.
so within even the last, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years, and don't quote me on that timeline, every health organization, World Health Organization, American Cancer Society, Heart Association, all of the organizations have come out and said the only safe amount of alcohol to drink is zero. Where before there were much more spacious allowances for how
Mm,
much was okay, safe, healthy to drink. And yeah, I think that for whatever big alcohol had a lot of power there. And so there was a lot of delayed information and that we're now realizing, yeah, it's not healthy to do that. But unfortunately, there are so many people with ingrained habits that I think that information is going to affect the coming generations and they're going to use alcohol
mhm.
much differently. And we're already seeing that. But for our generations and forward, it has to be people making a conscious decision to choose a different path because sometimes we believe that we're invincible. Oh, if I
Mhm.
don't have a problem or if I just use it responsibly or very infrequently, then it must be okay. And yeah, is it
Mhm.
probably somewhat okay? Maybe, but it's definitely not recommended that you ingest any at all anymore, which that's the tune has changed certainly within the past year or two. You're very correct in that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I'm seeing more, and maybe it's censorship of the research and the data that's already been out, or there are more people studying this and getting more curious about it and finding, oh, actually, no, not
Yeah.
great. Oh, yeah, but it is that interplay between industry with everything,
Right.
especially in the US. It's we'd tank our economy if we told people the truth about this thing that we need to. It's so
Yeah,
layered.
it's very convoluted and very icky. And I'm not anti-alcohol, Emily. I think that's the big another big thing that like really differentiates me. I'm not here to like, if you're here and you're happy with your relationship with alcohol, I'm not here to convert you. But if you're someone who, and I'm not going to go after big alcohol, I think that, of course, some of the things that they do and the promotion tactics are a little ick
Not
to me
great.
now. But I really want to be the champion for that woman who has started to sense, like I did almost a decade ago, that something's off here and I can't pinpoint what it is. And I want to be a better version of myself. And is it possible that somehow maybe this pretty normalized relationship with alcohol I have is holding me back? And if I can reach more of those people who are just on the cusp and need someone like I needed to encourage me and show me what's possible, wow, I am doing my best work at that point. And I think that you probably have some women who are listening today who are in your community and in your circle who have started to kind of question, is this something that I would want to try? But it feels so impossible in a world where celebration and commiseration and friendship and sometimes even like your social running club or whatever centers around alcohol. It
Right.
feels so impossible. And I just want to be a champion for, oh, you can actually have a really vibrant life without this thing. Will it be a little difficult to get over some of the humps and bumps and the learning curves? Yes. But once you're past that, you are just going to give yourself a competitive edge on life that cannot be matched. And you're going to feel unstoppable and super powerful. And that's what I want for more women, because I think it's a really beautiful experience to have and also to watch blossom in someone else.
That's so beautiful. So when someone, and yes, like all of these things, a lot of our social fabric is, as you said, centered around even, as you said, like a running club or something that's fitness related. But also living here in Charleston, there's this whole beach boat culture that also somehow is yes, you're like out on the water in the sun enjoying nature, but then there's also alcohol. Like
Yeah.
that's like the center thing. And besides the point that it's dehydrating and you probably should be drinking something that actually is not going to make you pass out at some point because of all the sun and the heat and all the stuff. That's a whole other thing too. So it's like all of these different pieces, or even professionally, right? As you've said before, happy hours and other work events. I know for my husband, like he works remote, but if he has something in person, it's always a big dinner with lots of alcohol or like a happy hour or something in the past, or conferences are always like crazy. So where do you even begin to take the first few steps? And what was that like for you to start unwinding and start examining that relationship with alcohol and start taking those first steps to be like, I'm going to actually try this and move in this direction? As you said, I think it's different for those people who are like, it's not necessarily negatively impacting your life in a way that you can see and touch and feel as clearly as if you had a true drinking problem or an addictive relationship with alcohol. But if there is that desire just to see, do I want to experiment with this for a couple weeks or a month? Where would people begin? What's like the smart way to approach this so that you don't end up being like, never mind, this is
Yeah.
crazy.
I think that we live in this instant gratification society where we want results and things very quickly. And so I think that if you feel called and curious to this path that you're on, that you owe it to yourself to give it a solid shot. And in my experience, the bare minimum of a solid shot is 30 days consecutive alcohol free, not taking a couple of days off, because truly you're really not even going to see significant results in 30 days, but you need to give yourself at least some sort of challenging yet somewhat easy runway to give this a try, and realizing that you're just going to have to be ruthless in saying, this is my goal right now. And you're going to have to set yourself up for whatever conditions, if that means taking a step back from your social life, if that means telling everyone that absolutely not, you're not drinking right now, really setting yourself up for success to take a consecutive sustained break. And if I were being very optimistic, I would ask you to take a 90-day break, because you really need that long to give yourself the time to clarify your system and start to feel better physically, but then also to start to experience some of the challenges that are going to come your way, both emotionally and socially. And Emily, I was terrified to quit drinking. I didn't want to, and I didn't have to, but I knew somewhere in my soul that this is what was calling to me. This is what I needed to do. And I needed to give it a solid shot. And for me, it was just about being, like I said, absolutely ruthless. And this is my non-negotiable goal that I'm going after right now. And I think if you're going to do that, the other thing that I would have you be cognizant of is this is not a time to blow up your life and change everything. A lot of people will go at a goal like this in correlation with a Whole30 or what is the other, I'm losing it right now, the other like 90-day challenge that people do that is you read and work out 2 times a day.
Oh, 75 hard.
75 hard. Yes. I'm
Okay.
like, I'm blanking on what this thing is called.
Oh gosh,
Yes.
I'm not good at knowing this stuff
I
because I
know.
don't
No,
do
you
those
got it.
things.
You got it. But a lot of people will stop drinking in correlation with one of those things. And if that's how you work, if that's how you operate, great. But for some people, that can be overload and it just feels very overwhelming to the system. So I would have you, if you really want to be serious about changing your relationship with alcohol, just have that be your main thing for 90 days. And don't focus on weight loss. Don't focus on changing your diet. Don't focus on training for the Olympics or whatever you think that you might need to do to get your physical fitness in check. Just focus on removing alcohol because it's so ingrained in your lifestyle, in your emotional makeup, and in the way that we socialize that you really need to be tender with yourself for a little bit and give yourself the opportunity to succeed and excel and not be overwhelmed. So where you're just like, screw it, this sucks. And you throw in the towel. I really want anyone who tries this to have a chance to succeed, which is, of course, why I run programs and do things around that 90-day benchmark, because I really want you to have the tools that you need to be successful in that kind of starting few tender months.
Amazing. So what does it look like for people to work with you in that process over those 90 days?
The way that I look at changing your relationship with alcohol is really threefold. And the first 2 steps are to really work on your mindset so that you can take an optimistic approach to removing alcohol so that it's not science, alcohol is bad, wrong, and evil, because I think that for some people that is helpful to know that and good, we need to be aware of that. But for some people, it's just so overwhelming learning about all the science behind it. But if you can understand how it's holding you back and keeping you stuck, and you're an ambitious person who wants to do better, that can shift your mindset into, oh, I'm going towards something that I want versus going away from something that I don't want to go away from. Like, we really want to give you this holy grail to go after. And then you also want to get resourced with the tools that you need to overcome emotional stress and social anxiety of any kind. I'm not saying like deep social anxiety, but any sort of hesitation that you have around alcohol socially. And if you can get those 2 steps into place so that you have a solid foundation and you're not just white knuckling it or quitting alcohol without any resources and tools or change of internal behavior, you really set yourself up for long-term success. So I really focus on the mindset and the emotional and spiritual tools that you need to really change a behavior versus let's just have you quit alcohol and see how that goes. I want to have you have some other building blocks in your toolkit so that you can have ultimate long-term sustainable success.
That's so important, especially with making any kind of change that you really want to see stick. But I love that you do it in these 90-day increments. And I know you also have a 21-day challenge for people who purchase your book, and then you have the book as well. So where should people begin? What's the entry point for folks who might be listening to this and being like, I want to learn more about this and see if it's something that I want to do or would be helpful for me?
Yeah, you can always poke around on my social and just be a lurker for a while. But I think that the book was intended to help give you this very accessible, very positively focused view into what it's like to live alcohol free. So the book, again, is called Unbottled Potential. And for your listeners, if they go to amandakuda.com/challenge and type in the coupon code Emily, they can get the 21-day challenge that corresponds with the book and really gives you a kickstart into this alcohol-free lifestyle, absolutely free. And I think that it would be a really great place to just start to dabble and get your mind wrapped around what could it be like for me if I change my relationship with alcohol, or if I really even look at it, how has alcohol become ingrained into my life? And is this something that I want to start to unravel and investigate? And if you've felt curious about this conversation, I think that would be a great place to get started.
Amazing. We'll link that in the show notes for everybody to make it really easy and clickable. And then that code is Emily if you missed that. Also, you can find Amanda on Instagram, her website, amandakuda.com. Instagram is at Amanda Kuda. Everything is pretty consistently.
Yep.
Your
I got
full
left
name.
out that I got all my full name on everything.
Lucky, lucky. So good. And then you can buy Unbottled Potential on Amazon or anywhere where books are sold. Anything else that we didn't cover today that
No,
feels important?
I think we really covered the gamut. The other thing that I would just say is for women who are running their own business or empire or working in an entrepreneurial field, being fully present for your greatness is truly a competitive edge that cannot be matched. And I have watched people, so many of my clients who have given up alcohol and been able to completely transform their careers or show up for their side hustle differently and turn it into a full-fledged business. And it's just really impressive what you can do when you decide to show up fully for yourself, even if it were just for a sprint, even if maybe you're writing a book or you want to write a book and you choose not to drink until you finish that goal. I just want to assure you that this could be a competitive edge that can take your dreams to the next level. And it's really miraculous what you can accomplish. So I'm cheering for anyone who wants to explore that as a lifestyle, even temporarily.
That's incredible. I love that point. And yeah, it is. It is so important to be so clear, to know yourself, to really build your identity authentically outside of, as you mentioned in your journey, like this sort of unintentional way of, oh, wait, this accidentally became part of my whole identity. And I don't know if I actually want that. I don't know if that's who I'm meant to be. And I think sometimes we're really close to it, and those relationships with substances, with alcohol, can be really tricky. And again, not as obviously a problem if you don't have what we would generally consider an addiction or a drinking problem, but are more casual about it in that sort of gray area where you mentioned most people fall. So I love this conversation. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, we'll link everything for you to find Amanda in the show notes so you can grab her book, grab that challenge, and check out her Instagram, connect with her, say hi, tell her thank you for the conversation, or just share any aha moments that you may have had throughout the last bit of time. I don't know how long this has been. 40-ish minutes.
Yeah.
on the
Yeah. I'd
podcast.
love to hear from you if this resonated with you. Absolutely.
Amazing. And if you're in Austin, keep an eye out because you might see her
For
somewhere.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I will talk to you next time.
Thanks, Emily.
Keep your mind wide open, keep your soul aligned. You've got all the answers waiting there inside. You're not alone. Take a throne like nobody's business, like nobody's business.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Like Nobody's Business. So, what did you think? I hope you found this episode absolutely enlivening. If you loved it, I'd be so grateful if you'd help me spread the word by sharing this episode with a friend or a loved one you know would feel supported and encouraged by this too. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you won't miss an episode. It's also infinitely helpful to me and to my team if you take a moment to rate and review the podcast so that other trailblazers like you can find this resource, know it exists, and step out of struggle and into more ease. Thanks so much for sharing your time with me today and for taking this space to receive nourishment for your greatest vision. And in case no one told you this today, you are wildly brilliant, beautifully wise, and radically trustworthy. Keep shining your light so that all of those who need what you're here to share with our world can see, feel, and experience your unique medicine. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Nobody's business, like nobody's business.